The Battle of Lissa took place on 20 July 1866 in the Adriatic Sea near the Dalmatian island of Lissa and was a decisive victory for an outnumbered Austrian Empire force over a numerically superior Italian force. It was the first major sea battle between ironclads and one of the last to involve deliberate ramming. The Italian Navy fired roughly 1,450 shots during the engagement, but failed to do any serious damage to any Austrian ship while losing 2 battleships. One of the main reasons for this poor performance was internal rivalry between the Italian fleet commanders. For example, Italian Vice Admiral Albini, with his ships, did not engage the enemy during the battle. The engagement was made up of several small battles. The main battle was between 7 Austrian and 4 Italian ironclads and showed the ability of Austrian commander Tegetthoff to divide his more numerous opponents and then destroy the isolated ironclads. Historical situation. The battle occurred as part of the Third Italian Independence War, in which Italy allied with Prussia in the course of the conflict against Austria. The major Italian objective was to capture Venice and at least part of the former Venetian territory from Austria. The fleets were composed of a mix of unarmored sailing ships with steam engines, and armored ironclads also combining sails and steam engines. The Italian fleet of 12 ironclads and 17 unarmored ships outnumbered the Austrian fleet of 7 and 11 respectively. The Austrians were also severely outmatched in rifled guns and total weight of metal. A single turret ship took part in the action. The Italian Affondata Piedmontese Count Carlo di Pisano commanded the Italian fleet, while the Austrian fleet was commanded by Konteradmiral Wilhelm von Tegetthoff. The fort of Lissa was put under the authority of the Oberst David Uars de Margina, Romanian of Transylvania. Plans for the battle. The Italian fleet under Pisano was divided into 3 divisions. Pisano commanded the main battle force with 9 ironclads. His deputy, Albini, commanded a support division, and Admiral Vacca commanded a 3rd reserve division with minor wooden ships. The attacking Austrian fleet was also split into 3 divisions. The 1st division consisted of the armoured ships, while the 2nd consisted of the powerful but obsolete unarmoured wooden ship of the line Kaiser and 5 frigates. The 3rd division consisted of the smaller screw gunboats and armed merchantmen. The armed merchant cruiser Stadion was ahead of the fleet acting as a scout. The 3 Austrian divisions were formed up into 3 consecutive arrowhead or V formations. The armoured 1st Division under Tegetthoff was in the van, the weaker gunboats and paddle steamers of the 3rd Division to the rear, while the powerful but unarmoured vessels of Commodore Pett's 2nd Division were in the centre. The Austrian plan, due to their weaker firepower, was to close quickly into a melee, and to use close-range fire and ramming to sink a small portion of the Italian fleet, thereby breaking the Italian will to fight. The Italians, despite their numerical superiority, were not prepared for battle. They were busy preparing for landings on the island of Vis when the news that the Austrian fleet was at sea and seeking battle reached them. Pisano cancelled the landings, ordered the fleet into line abreast, but having second thoughts, cancelled that order and ordered the fleet into 3 divisions in a line-ahead formation, the same formation as at battles in the Age of Sail. The 1st Division in the vanguard consisted of Principe di Carignano, Castelfidardo and Ancona under Admiral Vacca. Captain First Class FAA di Bruno's 2nd Division in the centre consisted of Re d'Italia, Palestro and San Martino, and the 3rd Division to the rear had the Re di Portogallo, Regina Maria Pia and, at the extreme rear, Varese under Captain Augusto Ribotti. In total, the Italians had 11 ironclads in the battle line. The other ships were dispersed into the battle line. The exception was Affondata, which was on the far side of the 2nd Squadron and out of the battle line. Pisano may have intended this to be an uncommitted reserve. Before the battle, Pisano caused more confusion by deciding to transfer his flag to the Affondatore, and the 2nd and 3rd Divisions slowed to allow Re d'Italia to lower her boats. However, the signal to slow down never reached the 1st Division, and they continued to steam on, allowing a gap to open in the Italian battle line. To compound the error, Pisano never signaled the change of flag, and throughout the action the Italians continued to look to the old flagship Re d'Italia for orders rather than Affondata. Engagement. In the Austrian fleet there was enthusiasm but also fear, because the Italian fleet was bigger, 12 ironclads and 19 wooden ships with 641 guns, while the Austrians had only 7 ironclads and 20 wooden ships with 532 guns. When the engagement began, the Italian division Vacca was on a long circuit of the north of Lissa, and so was at first away from the battle. And it is curious that the Albini ships with their 398 guns, though ordered by Pisano to do so, did not fire a single shot all through the battle, having ignored warnings from his pickets of suspicious ships in sight. Pisano had effectively allowed the Austrians to ambush his force while it was still forming. Tegetthoff, seeing a gap opening between the 1st and 2nd Divisions, forced his fleet into it and concentrated on raking the Italians and ramming. This meant that he allowed his T to be crossed. While the Austrians were approaching, Vacca's 1st Italian Division threw a heavy weight of fire at them. The Austrians could only reply with their chase guns. Because Pisano was in the process of transferring his flag, no general order was given. The 2nd and 3rd Divisions did not join in, and the Austrians crossed the killing area, suffering some serious damage, but no ships were lost. Draca on the extreme right wing of the Austrian 1st Division was hit 17 times by heavy shells, losing her mainmast and temporarily losing propulsion. Her captain, von Moll, was decapitated by a heavy shell, but his subordinate, Karl Weyprecht, brought the ship back into the fight. By 10:43 am the Austrians had brought the Italian van to close action. Habsburg, Salamander and Kaiser Max on the Austrians' left wing had engaged the Italian 1st Division, while the right wing of Don Juan d'Istria, Draca and Prince Eugen engaged the Italian 2nd Division. Pisano, now on the most powerful warship in either fleet, Affondata, stayed clear of the engagement. With the confusion in the Italian van, Commodore von Petz took the opportunity to take his 2nd Division to the Italian rear and fall on their 3rd Division. The unarmored wooden ships of the Austrian 2nd Division were facing modern ironclads armed with heavy guns. Yet despite suffering heavy fire they held together. The screw frigate Navarra was hit 47 times, and her captain, Erich A.F. Klint, was killed. Erzherzog Friedrich was hit by a heavy shell below the waterline but still remained afloat, while Schwarzenberg was disabled by heavy Italian fire and set adrift. Ramming attacks. Seeing things going badly, Pisano decided to ram the unarmored screw battleship Kaiser rather than one of the armored ships engaged with the Italian 2nd Division much nearer him. However, Kaiser managed to dodge Affondata. Taking heart from his admiral, the captain of Re di Portogallo laid heavy fire on Kaiser with his rifled guns. At the last moment, von Petz turned into the ram, conducting a counter-ram. The impact tore off Kaiser's stem and bowsprit, leaving her figurehead embedded in Re di Portogallo. The Italian used the opportunity to rake Kaiser with fire, putting her mainmast and funnel into the sea. The smoke was so great that as they backed off for another ram they lost sight of each other and ended the duel. At roughly the same time, Tegetthoff threw his flagship Erzherzog Ferdinand Max at first at the former Italian flagship, Re d'Italia, and then at Palestro. In both cases he scored only glancing blows, but these caused serious damage, especially to Palestro, which was dismasted and set afire. Palestro's captain, Capellini, pulled his ship out of the line. His crew refused to abandon their captain and Palestro finally blew up and sank at 2:30 p.m., with only 19 survivors out of a complement of 230. Meanwhile, Erzherzog Ferdinand Max was circling FAA di Bruno's Re d'Italia, pouring on fire before surging forward and achieving a good impact with her ram, aided by the Italian having reversed in a poorly thought-out attempt to avoid crossing the Austrians' bows at the crucial moment. This put an 18 feet hole below Re d'Italia's waterline, and she struck her colors and sank 2 minutes later. According to legend, her captain shot himself after giving the order to strike the colors. As Erzherzog Ferdinand Max limped away, damaged after conducting 3 ramming attacks, Ancona closed on her attempting to ram. The Italian gunners got a full broadside off at point-blank range, but while they had remembered the gunpowder, in the excitement they had forgotten to load the shot. After his encounter with Re di Portogallo earlier in the battle and having fought his way clear of Maria Pia, Commodore von Petz's Kaiser found itself at close range with a Fondata. Despite being a perfect target for a ram, Kaiser survived when Pisano ordered a Fondatore to turn away. Tegetthoff's victory was saluted by his mariners, mainly Croats and Venetians, from Venetia, Istria and Dalmatia, with the traditional Venetian cry of victory, "Viva San Marco!" By 1500, Tegetthoff had led his fleet into the harbour of Lissa, where the damaged Kaiser had already arrived, undisturbed by the Italian ships. Despite Pisano's orders to engage the Austrian vessels, both Albini and Vacca ignored the orders, as the latter candidly testified at Pisano's trial. With his ships low on fuel and ammunition, and his crews spent, Pisano led his fleet back towards his home port of Ancona. In Italy, the outrage over the loss of 2 ironclads was huge, and Pisano after the battle was judged by the Senate, condemned for incompetence and stripped of his rank, while Admiral Albini was merely relieved of command, and Admiral Vacca had to retire soon after for age limits. Naval historian Giorgio Giorgerini stated Albini and Vacca deserved a more severe sentence than Pisano. Aftermath. Kaiser's encounter with the Fondatore was the last major action of the battle. With 2 armoured ships sunk, the Italians withdrew, although there would be some exchange of long-range fire for several hours. Pisano announced a victory, causing much initial celebration until the real outcome of the battle was publicized. He was forced to appear in front of the Italian Senate, which alone had the power to prosecute its members, and was dismissed on charges of incompetence and cowardice. Tegetthoff returned home a hero, was promoted vice-admiral, and is considered one of the greatest naval commanders in Austrian history. The engagement had no impact on the outcome of the war, as the Italian defeat was overshadowed by the crushing Prussian victory over the Austrian army at Königgrätz. Austria, humbled by Prussia and bullied by Napoleon III of France, agreed to cede Venetia to Italy despite the overall failure of the Italian war effort. However, Tegetthoff's efforts were instrumental in preventing the Italians from annexing some of the Dalmatian islands, which were once part of the Republic of Venice. The importance of ramming in the battle led to naval designers, over the next 50 years, equipping future warships with ram bows. This aggravated a number of incidents of ships being sunk by their squadron mates in accidental collisions. Ramming never featured as a viable battle tactic again. The fixation on ramming may also have inhibited the development of gunnery. Modern commentators now take the view that Lissa occurred during a period of weapons development when armor was considerably stronger than the guns available to defeat it. This was compounded, on the Italian side, by poor gunnery and, on the Austrian side, by the fact that a number of their ships had been forced to go into battle without their full armament owing to the Prussian embargo. Kaiser, remarkably, reported herself fit for action the morning after the battle. Her fleet, an unarmored, wooden ship willingly engaging 4 ironclads at short range, appears to be unprecedented and was never emulated. Order of battle. Vessels are ranked by fighting power. Austrian Empire 1st Division. Armored ships Erzherzog Ferdinand Max. Habsburg. Kaiser Max. Don Juan d'Istria. Prinz Eugen. Drache. Salamander. 2nd Division. Wooden steam warships Kaiser. Navarra. Schwarzenberg. Radetzky. Donau. Adria. Erzherzog Friedrich. 3rd Division. Minercraft Narenta. Kirke. Hum. Belabich. Dalmat. Sea Hund. Wall. Streiter. Recker. Andreas Hofer. Kaiserine Elizabeth, launched 1854, 4-12 PDRSB. Grief. Stadion. Kingdom of Italy. Armored ships are Fondata, 5 inches iron on belt and turrets, 12 knots. Redi Italia. Redi Portogallo. Regina Maria Pia. San Martino. Castelfidardo. Ancona. Principe di Carignano. Formidable breech-loading rifles, 4.3 inches iron belt, 10 knots. Terabile. Palestro. Varese. Wooden steam warships Gaeta. Maria Adelaide. Duca di Genova. Garibaldi. Principe Umberto. Carlo Alberto. Vittorio Emanuele. San Giovanni. Governolo. Giscardo. Minor ships Giglio. Cristoforo Colombo. Guatemala. Unknown. Esplorata. Messiga. Independenza. Piemonte. Flavio Gioia. Stella di Italia. Namesakes. SMS Lissa, an Austro-Hungarian broadside ironclad, was launched in 1869 and named in honor of the Battle of Lissa. She was scrapped between 1893 and 1895. Alfredo Capellini of Palestro was the namesake of an Italian armored gunboat launched in 1868 and an Italian monitor Alfredo Capellini launched in 1915. Faa di Bruno of Redi Italia was the namesake of an Italian armored gunboat launched in 1868 and a monitor launched in 1916. During World War II, an Italian submarine with his name was sunk in 1940 near Scotland. Augusto Riboti Varese was the namesake of an Italian destroyer leader launched in 1916. Vice Admiral von Tegethoff was the namesake of an Austro-Hungarian center battery ironclad launched in 1878. A class of dreadnought battleships and the lead vessel of that class, launched in 1912. Ironically, at the end of World War I, the latter ship was given to the Italian Royal Navy, which in 1924-25 scrapped the ship that bore the name of the man who had defeated it in its first battle. Bibliography. Stevens, William Oliver and Alan Westcott. A History of Sea Power. Doubleday. Sacchi, Martino. Navii Canona. La Marina Italiana da Lissa Oggi. Giunta, Firenze 2000. Sandler, Stanley. The Emergence of the Motor Capital Ship. Associated University Presses, Lexington, Kentucky, 1979. Scotti, Giacomo. Lissa 1866. La Grande Battaglia per l'Adriatico, Lint Editorial, Trieste 2004. ISBN 88-8190-211-7. Martino, Ermino. Lissa 1866. Perche, in Storia Militare. 214 and N. 215. Parma 2011. ISSN 1122-5289. Giorgiorini, Giorgio. La Guerra Italiana sul Mare. Oscar, Mondadori, Milano 2002. ISBN 9788804501503.